Hey everybody, good morning and good Monday to you. It was good seeing so many of you at church on Sunday and then also Thursday night. And then for those of you who came out to our casa here, you girls who came here, at least had a wonderful time with you. And I saw pictures of my son looking at you in ways that we need to talk to him about. He is a little ladies' man and he just needs to cut it out. And you are encouraging it, but we're glad for having you here. And then for you guys who came out, it was a really good time over at the church playing capture the flag and having the cops show up and all that. Don't freak out, parents. It's okay. You can ask them about it. Um, just want to remind you all, 7 o'clock Wednesday night this week. We're going to be talking about fellowship and what that means and what it means for us as we move forward into this next year. And then the week after that, we're actually going to be having a sweet bonfire out there, and Andrew's going to be speaking, and we're going to have some music and stuff too, since that is important. Um, also want to remind you guys that Tuesday nights at 6:30 at the Kennis's is the young adult group. This applies to you seniors in high school and anyone who's out of high school who's still managed to be in the group site. Um, if you need the book Radical by David Platt, we can help you get that. It's an amazing book. Just let us know. Just write a little message right down there on the Facebook page. And with all that, let's go ahead and get started. We're in Philippians again, chapter 1, starting in verse 19. Yes, and I will continue to rejoice, for I know that through your prayers and God's provision of the Spirit of Jesus Christ, what has happened to me will turn out for my deliverance. I eagerly expect and hope that I will in no way be ashamed, but will have sufficient courage so that now, as always, Christ will be exalted in my body, whether by life or by death. For to me, to live is Christ, and to die is gain. If I am to go on living in the body, this will mean fruitful labor for me. Yet what shall I choose? I don't know. I'm torn between the two. I desire to depart and be with Christ, which is better by far, but it is more necessary for you that I remain in the body. Convinced of this, I know that I will remain, and I will continue with all of you for your progress and joy in the faith, so that through my being with you again, your boasting in Christ Jesus will abound on account of me. Paul rejoices here at the beginning, up in verse 19, because he's certain that it is God's will that he is going to be released. Remember, this is the first time that Paul was imprisoned. He's in house arrest at this point. And then he gives his explanation in verses 24 through 26 as to why he thinks he'll be released. I'll just read those again. But it is more necessary for you that I remain in the body. Convinced of this, I know that I will remain, I will continue with all of you for your progress and joy in the faith, so that through my being with you again, your boasting in Jesus Christ will abound on account of me. Basically, he's saying the main reason why he thinks he'll be released is to continue to disciple them, and then also to be able to be around to encourage them and the other churches as well that he's still working with. He knows his work isn't done. He's not going to be sentenced to death because there's more for him to do at this point. His main goal is very clear, though. It's not to be released, but it's to glorify Christ. You see that in verse 20. I eagerly expect and hope that I will in no way be ashamed, but will have sufficient courage so that now, as always, Christ will be exalted in my body, whether by life or by death. Um, he desperately hopes that whatever the outcome, he will not be ashamed by how he represents Jesus. He would rather die for Jesus, um, to Jesus' honor, than to live ashamed of denying him or tarnishing Jesus' name. This is different than like a kamikaze or in the old old warriors or whatever, um, different groups that would pursue glory in death. Unless you're dying for the glory of Christ, you're dying for yourself and um, someone else's against him, basically, like your honor or someone else's honor. And if it's for anyone else, it's against Christ. Samurai would rather stab themselves, like they'd stab themselves instead of being captured because they believe it would preserve their honor and their family's honor. That is going against honoring the Lord. It's for yourself and putting yourself higher than the Lord, doing something like that. Um, Paul's not doing that. Paul knows that it is a much greater glory that he represents than anything derived from like a creed or a bloodline. His body, life, and soul exist only to honor the Lord. And whatever happens, as long as he's doing that to the end, he is actually joyful. If you read through this 19 through 26, the tone there is joyful, especially when he's in verse 22. He says, "Yet I don't know what to choose. I don't know." You get this kind of like he's weighing it out, um, talking jovially almost. Um, as far as what in verse 21 where he says living in Christ and to die is gain, living in Christ means to be completing his work on this earth. It is easy to forget as believers, especially in America, what a great honor this is to be completing Christ's work on the earth. For those of us who grew up in the church, like myself, with families that love the Lord, it is often hard to grasp what an honor it is to be able to serve him. People who came from much darker backgrounds can see contrast of light and dark often better than those of us who were raised in the church, who can often have a muddled view. Um, all that aside, and that's a different topic for another time. Um, need to take in perspective that the God of the universe chose you to carry out his plans, to bring others to him. It's a crazy, wonderful, beautiful, terrifying, difficult, and rewarding thing, beyond what you can measure. And it's God's will for you personally that you carry out his will on this earth and lead others to him. It's such a great thing to Paul that he has a hard time choosing a life of serving the Lord down here on earth and actually being in the presence of God. In verse 22 there again, he says, what should I do? I don't know. Verse 23 says, I'm torn between the two. I desire to depart and be with Christ, which is better by far, but it is more necessary for you that I remain in the body. He can't tell which one he wants. It's not because that the Christian life is wonderful, full of lollipops and candy rainbows. Paul is in prison. He's under house arrest. He's got a armed guard chained to him. He's not able to go anywhere, and that's happening while this is being written. It's not like he's writing this on some plush couch from some teenager's house, which is what I'm on right now. That's not the case. He's living in prison right now as he's writing this. The choice is so hard because he so desperately wants to serve the Lord. Not because of how great life down here is, but because he desperately wants to serve the Lord. For him, on a personal level, going to be with Jesus is the ultimate scenario. I mean, it's the ultimate in joy. He is the very representation of joy and love, and so it can't get better than that. So for him personally, in his own personal enjoyment, that would be great. And that would be the top, as it is for every believer. But serving the Lord down here on earth is number two, and a close number two. So much that he has a hard time choosing which one, is better. That's just something to think about. We can actually experience joy and Christ's presence almost as good as heaven down here. Enough to where the decision is hard. Well, should I go home to be with the Lord, or should I stay here and serve because I get that much joy out of it, and Christ is honored that much by it, and I'm filled with that much joy by how much Christ is honored by my serving. That really only works though if you're truly passionate about serving God. If you're just wanting to stick around so that, like Brand said today, the rapture can't happen because I'm not married and I haven't had kids yet and all this stuff. If those are your reasons, it's again selfish. It's very much like taking your own life for your own honor instead of laying your life down for Christ. It is selfish, and you're not going to get joy that is eternal and lasting from that. We can be miserable running from God down here. you're filled with guilt and shame doing that, or we can know the joy and hope and peace that comes from pursuing God with your whole heart. Um, Paul says at the end, again, of the passage there, that his main reason for staying is for the sake of these other believers, so that they can grow in the Lord, so that they can boast in Christ, so that even his main reason for feeling like it's okay for him to stay is to boast in Christ, so that Jesus is glorified. I'd recommend that you go ahead and read through this again, especially verses 20 through 24. They've been very impactful in many um, strong believers' lives throughout the years. And this next Wednesday, we'll get to talk about it a little bit, because it's going to play into what we're going to be talking about regarding fellowship and how we're going to be living together in community over this school season. Again, if you have any questions about anything, please post them like right below this video link, or send us a message if you want to make it a private type question. Have a great day, and we're praying for you guys, and can't wait to see you soon.